Welcome to yet another POV street photography video on the channel. This time it's with the Sony a7III and the 85mm 1.8. And we are at Christianshavn, or Christians Harbor, if you would translate it to English, here in lovely Copenhagen. So this video was actually shot over a couple of days because our beloved cargo bike broke down on us. And it was some of the metal parts that was breaking. So I had to take it down to Christiania, Freetown, to get it fixed. Because there is this store down here that can weld things. So yeah, I hope for them to weld back the bike. But the weather was really not that appetizing on any of the days. So I hope this video also shows how I try to take photos even on bad weather days. So to mix up my street photography, I always try to incorporate different aspects of, let's say, technical touches to the photos. So like here I am being drawn by the symmetry of the shot. Then of course I try to look for interesting subjects to show and document the lived life. Another grip could be to look up and look for interesting architecture and these small minimalistic shots. Or you can go down and try to change the perspective of what we humans used to see. An important trick, I think, is to try to create layers in the shots by having a foreground, a middle and a background, or at least two of these focal planes in the photo. The thing I like to do is to just have something in the frame as the foreground to block out some of the photo and to control where I want the viewer to look at. On this shot here I actually used the new blur function in Lightroom because the woman walking here was too much blended into the background, and I think it worked out decent with the blur function. So far we have a couple of decent shots, but the gray weather here is really making it hard to get anything out of this because it is really dull and flat. So as I try to get some shots here on the square without much success, I apparently triggered two young drug dealers, I guess, who followed me down the street. So nothing really happened, but it was a bit uncomfortable to have them address me in this way, and I guess they wanted me to delete my photos if they have been in the frame.
I'm taking photos, yes?
Of course, no.
No, not you. Just like streets.
Were we in the picture?
I'm not sure. No.
No, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
As you see, many of the shots have this foreground element, as I talked about earlier, and to me at least it really helps defining the photo in a more interesting way. I would have loved to have a person in the shot here. No, not you guys. Or at least go further down into the frame. So this area here in Copenhagen, you don't see many shots of, which is quite odd, I think, because it has a lot of charm with the cobblestones and the old lantern lamps. Again, I would have loved for a pretty woman to be in the frame here, just to spice up the photo. So to be honest, I was struggling a bit on the walk here because my gloves were getting wet and my hands were also really cold. And I kind of hit some of the buttons on the way on the camera, and yeah, it was really a pain in the beep. I like this colorful jacket on the woman here. It really suits the photo in a good way.
Keep breaking my heart. There's always a reason that keeps me believing that one day we'll make it right. I'm taking it as it comes.
So yeah, at this point I just couldn't use my hands anymore, so I decided to pack away my camera and go buy a nature wine and go home to my kids and my wife. But a week later I had to go back to Christiania, and this time the weather was also grey and dull, but it was a little warmer and it was really foggy. This made the editing quite challenging, I think, because you lose so much contrast with the fog, and you kind of want to make the photos appealing by adding some contrast, but still you also want the fog to be noticeable, because this makes the photos more unique. Have you tried editing foggy photos, and how did you do this? Let me know in the comments if you have any advice or tips. So I'm trying to use leading lines here to make a better photo, but yeah, it's nothing really special. So just a fun fact, many of the boats here at the canal are actually houseboats with people living in them. I thought this was a cute little boat in the big boat. I had to do some photoshopping to make the framing better though, and it would probably have been even better with the window in the center of the frame. So my mother-in-law calls me here, but I try to work along with the photography as well. Here I just missed the waitress coming out of the cafe, which was a bad luck, because it would have made the story of the photo a bit better, I think.
Men jeg synes også, jeg laver de andre ting jo lidt. Det er ikke fordi det er billigt, tror jeg. Hvorfor? Jeg kendte det faktisk ikke, hvis jeg skal være helt ærlig. Men det var også, tror jeg, fordi hun har spurgt, de kan jo nok lave nærmest alt i stål. Jo.
So I hope you see how intense the fog is. It almost looks like I am using a mist filter on some of the shots, but I was not.
Det var jo der er også noget lamper og sådan noget. Og lys i Copenhagen eller sådan noget, så det er jo, der er jo sådan lidt mere unikumsagtigt. Nej. På den. Der. Det ved jeg ikke på den, men det gjorde jeg jo alligevel. Det gør man stadigvæk. Det... Fordi den som så skete, tror jeg, der var, at det drejede ligesom ikke. Sådan, ikke? Så det jo, havde jo været, ja. Men det nåede jeg jo så aldrig så langt ud. Og jeg endte jo så med at trække den, kan man sige. Ja, det... Det kommer ikke så tit, fandt jeg ud af, for jeg stod jo også og ventede. Ja, der kommer nok en lige om lidt. Og så går jeg bare, så går jeg lidt ned ad Vesterbrogade, eller hvad hedder det, Istegade, og så tager jeg, så havde jeg jo ikke tænkt over, det var jo ikke et eller andet smart sted, vi kunne have holdt den her på Christianshavn, lige pludselig skudt, og så går jeg.
This was one of the best shots of the day, I think, here. It just really looks like a movie scene, if you ask me. So sometimes you need to clean up the photo to level it up. I think it helps to remove the distracting elements and to keep just the woman in the frame.
Fordi at, ja. Og så er det sådan rigtig diesel. Ja. Det er meget. Altså København er meget indhyldet lidt i tog.
This is also one of the favorites of the day. Just really like the dark water and the symmetry of the boat and the contrasting colors.
Der har vi snakket om, at vi glæder os til at komme igen. Det gør vi. Ja, selv tak. Hej Lene. Hey! Ja, der er du så ikke gået. En grå, ja, det hedder Sange. Du skal se sej, når du kommer, for jeg har mit kamera i hånden.
I tried to get a good photo down the canal here, but I didn't really like the results. So my very good friend Rasmus turns up here. Apart from being a really handsome guy, he is just a really great friend.
Hallo? Kommer du også med der? Hey!
And we were supposed to go out and have a coffee, but we just ended up walking a lot of the way together back home. I didn't take many photos here, which was a bit sad because I missed a couple of good compositions, I think, but I just prioritized, talking to my friend. But after saying goodbye to Rasmus, I took out the camera again because the fog was even more intense than before. Like it was just really hard to see anything on the other side of the canal here. So this is a pretty cool photo, I think, with the rock ornament and the fogged out background. A thing I am not so fond about with many of the photos I took is the lack of color or saturation. Also, many of the photos have a lot of blue in them, which was hard to edit because if I remove too much of the blue in the photos, it just turns out to be gray, which is even worse, I think. So I was not the only one fascinated by the weather, I guess. I think this is my favorite photo of the day. It has a lot of contrast, which I really don't understand, taking the foggy weather into consideration, and I haven't really used any mask in post-process. The light just falls really nice on the gentleman in the trench coat. On top of that, I just think the photo shows the busyness of the street in a really narrative way. So this was the end of the photo walk. As you see, I took my family back and collected the cargo bike, and the weather was completely different this time. I also brought the camera, but this time I also used a 1/4 mist filter on the lens, and it just turns out with a completely different look when you go out and shoot in the winter sun. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Make sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't. It really means a lot to me and motivates me to keep making these kind of videos. Take care guys, bye.